Hello everyone, and today what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be showing you step by step of how muscle is built in the scientific terms, and it will also undercover why you may not be making any progress in terms of your physique, in terms of building muscle, and you're going to want to stick around because it will literally explain the underlying truth of it all. Firstly, the way of how muscle is fundamentally built is by the process of damaging the muscle fibers and creating little micro tears within the muscle fibers themselves, and then letting them recover back up, and then they grow back stronger and prepared to tackle on the next the threats that it has accumulated, and it takes and it happens like that because of survival evolutionary principles. And the way of how it all basically starts off is you basically is from resistance training. What you do is you train very hard, in fact close to failure, and this is what it represents right over here. And in order for it to be demonstrated, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a set of seated incline curls. And I am pretty nervous for that set, but we're going to get into it. And so, right off the bat, you're going to quite clearly see that the speed of my concentric, which is the part where the target muscle contracts or shortens, it's very fast, and on the isometric part, it's usually at a consistent point, and on the lengthening parts, where the muscle lengthens out, it basically is very consistent throughout the entire set. And as you can tell, I'm not really having to put in far too much effort into the set, and that is pretty much around about the 10th rep, and that would be around about now. And even though the concentric speed is slowing down, as you can quite clearly tell, I'm still pushing my absolute hardest on every single rep that I perform. And even when the weight does get difficult, I still keep pushing, and I still use a consistent form, and it's still no excuse for my form to be breaking down. And pretty much around this one is when the concentric part is really slow, and then on this 15th rep over here, I can no longer move the weight up any further, and my biceps decide to give out, and that is when I reached true muscular failure. And you literally have to train that hard, and you can't do any BS of going you're just lifting, and then once it gets to the point when oh no, that's a bit hard, and then you drop it down. I'm gonna tell you this thing, it will not get you anywhere in terms of building muscle, because of the fact that if you don't give the muscle enough of a reason for it to be damaged, then why on earth isn't it going to adapt to it? And in order for adaptation to occur, there needs to be a stress applied to it. And that stress is provided by some form of resistance training. And what you do is you train close to failure. And then once you train close to failure, the muscle fibers, they get torn apart. And then what you have to do from that point on is you then have to recover them. And so how do they recover? It's from two things. It is from diet, and also sleep, and all the other things that are managed outside of the gym. And the way of how you'd manage your diet out would be this simple. you have enough protein, ideally around 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, or like if you are explaining this in the British terms, it would be approximately 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, which would be the easiest to, and I'm saying that because it's pretty much 0.9 grams per pound of body weight, and it's easiest to remember in terms of the British terms, but there we go. And then if you do want the muscle to be able to grow back stronger and bigger, what you're going to have to do is eat in a caloric surplus of around 200 to 300 calories. But in order to find it out, what you're going to have to do is find out what your maintenance calorie is, and in order to do that, go to caloriecalculator.net, or I think there'll probably be a link in the description of the video where you can go to it, and then what you basically do is you type in all your details in there, your height, your weight, about your basic metabolic rate, and then it will pretty much give you an outcome over it. And then in order to bulk up, you have to add 200 to 300 calories on top of what you get from the caloriecalculator.net part. And then if you eat that much, then you'll be in a surplus. And if you eat less than the maintenance, you'll be in a deficit, and then you'll lose weight. And then the third thing is going to fundamentally then be recovery, and that would be, are you managing your sleep, your stress throughout the day? Are you managing it? Because if you're not, then it will most likely not enable the muscle to recover quickly, and also it will reduce testosterone production, which will then fundamentally also reduce your likelihood of actually building any muscle. And then it will be that stuff, all that stuff here of damaging the muscle fibers by training them to failure on the exercises that you do. And this applies to absolutely any muscle. It doesn't matter whether it is your biceps, your chest, your quads, your calves, or even a tiny ass muscle in the shoulder, such as the cuff. All of this applies to all of them. And if you don't apply these principles of damaging them first by training to failure, and then recovering them through your diet, and also by managing other outside factors in your life, such as your sleep and your stress levels throughout the days, then it will fundamentally not have as good of a reason to grow. But if one of these three variables though is taken out though, you fundamentally will not be growing any muscle whatsoever. And your training, it can be on point and you can be training extremely hard, but if your diet is not correct and if your sleep and recovery is poor, then you will not be building any muscle. And the same could be the other way around, of where you can have your diet on point as well as your recovery on point, but if you're not training hard enough, then you also will not be building any muscle either, and you'll probably be mostly gaining fats instead. And then you have to do all these three things, and then also repeat the process over and over and over again for years upon end, in order to pretty much get an insane, jacked, lean physique that you're probably after if you've watched this video for, which you most likely are. But it isn't just that, but also over time you also have to increase the stress applied towards the target muscle by increasing the load applied each time, whether it could be more reps, an increase in the weight, more sets, or you could also slow down the eccentric part, increase the distance to which the weight has to travel, and these sort of things. And in order for you to get a better glimpse of this sort of stuff, what we're going to do next is, after this, we're going to go towards training basics, and the next video is going to be about training basics, and we're going to be we're going to be learning about reps, sets, and those sorts of stuff if you want to find out about it. And so if you do want to find out about it, either like this video so that you know to come back to this for me to remind you about it, or subscribe so that you know it's about to come out next. And yeah, I'll see you in that video then.